What about the children? It's a question I get asked a lot, and it actually came up last night when I was speaking to a book club that had just read She Can Fly. And I tend to give the same answer. She Can Fly is a book about one woman surviving domestic violence. I could write another book about each of Carrie's 4 children, detailing how what they are exposed to shaped the men they have become today. And the miracle of it all is that each of Carrie's 4 boys have somehow managed to break the cycle. They have healthy relationships with the women and the children in their lives, and it's nothing short of a miracle. But it's interesting that this question came up last night because today I was forwarded an article on Twitter, and it's a book review in the NPR book section about The Wild Truth by Carine McCandless. And that name may sound familiar to you because Carine McCandless is actually the brother of Chris McCandless, who was the subject of Jon Krakauer's Into the Wild. And what Carine's book seeks to do is to shed a little light on what may have driven Chris to abandon all his possessions, burn his money, and take a journey into the wilderness that eventually led to his death. You know, people like to say that, oh, he was just an entitled, selfish 20-something. And, you know, in the face of this new millennial generation, you know, it's something that people can kind of really latch onto. And this book spins it a different way. It jumps right into things, and it's pretty rough. Carine and her brother Chris grew up with a volatile, viciously abusive father who made their weak-willed yet hyper-competent mother both his victim and his accomplice. And this is so similar to Carrie's story. You know, Carrie was in nursing school. She was a very smart, very, very good student who was going on to do big things. And before she knew it, she was a victim of terrible abuse and committing fraud by check, which landed her in prison. Victim and accomplice. And she goes on in the book to talk about how her father carried on multiple relationships and fathered multiple children with multiple women at the same time. She says he fathered 2 more children with his wife Marcia and 2 with Billy, Chris and Carine, while brutalizing and lying to both women. When Carine was 1 year old, Marcia finally escaped with her 6 children. But although Billy repeatedly vowed to leave Walt, raising her children's hopes, she never followed through. And this is even more striking in the similarity to Carrie's story. You know, the abuser in Carrie's relationship kept multiple women in the same house, kept them all pregnant to control them, and basically created this cult around him of victims and children, and it was nothing short of a circus. And that's why people want to know, like, what happened to the children? What about the children? Because it's almost impossible to believe that you can grow up in that environment and still turn out all right and not turn out an abuser. And, you know, I don't know if it's genetic, if it's something that they inherited from Carrie, or something they found along the way in their upbringing, or by bonding together. But Carrie's 4 sons, Ian, Michael, Jermaine, and Christopher, they're good men. And it's something that is an inspiration to me in terms of what the body and the mind can go through and be exposed to and still come out in the right manner. And it's sad that, you know, Chris McCandless was exposed to this, and it drove him to a lonely, sad death. It was very short and by very unique circumstances, but it happened nonetheless, and it's not uncommon. You know, people who are exposed to violence as children, they become abusers. They may become narcissists. They may become emotionally abusive. But it has an effect on you, and it trickles down. It extends exponentially into the world. You know, children have more children, and it creates an entire lineage of abuse until that cycle is broken, either in death or in the ability of men to overcome what they are exposed to and what their lineage is, and become what they know is right and what they know is moral. And it's fascinating. I can't wait to read Carine's book, and it's really just something to think about. What happened to the children?